Chapter 11 Talking to Death. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After the Spring Festival, Zhang Fulong set off. Before leaving, Zhang Fulong gave each of his parents a Lingyun pill. It was made from the medicinal materials Zhang Fulong found in the mountains these days and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It has the effect of improving physical fitness and delaying aging. As a cultivator, Zhang Fulong also has selfish motives. He wants his parents to live a few more years. Zhang Fulong's behavior is to help people change their fate against the will of heaven. He is watching, but he did not stop it. For him, he is also helping Zhang Fulong change his fate against the will of heaven. In this way, he also has selfish motives, and his selfishness is greater than anything else. Only after his parents took the Lingyun pill did Zhang Fulong feel at ease to leave. The central location of the Tianyuan realm is easy to find, but the hard part is the location where the Zhoutian Xingdou Great Array was built. Since the Zhoutian Xingdou Great Array disappeared out of thin air, the Gan did not send troops to garrison. Furthermore, Zhang Fulong had asked the nearby villagers for information, and the villagers told him that this land was very strange and would change every once in a while. They had lived nearby for so many years, and sometimes even they could not recognize the road, so they could not answer Zhang Fulong's questions in detail, and could only point out the approximate location to Zhang Fulong. After thanking him, Zhang Fulong walked in the direction pointed by the villagers. Coming here, as a cultivator, Zhang Fulong obviously felt that the spiritual energy here was much thicker, and the deeper he went, the purer the spiritual energy. In this way, it was easy to identify. Just follow the route. After walking for an unknown period of time, Zhang Fulong suddenly stopped. The place under his feet was the area with the thickest spiritual energy, and the spiritual energy outside seemed to be emitted from here. Feeling something, Zhang Fulong looked up, and a huge wool silhouette appeared faintly, which stunned Zhang Fulong. It was the first time that Zhang Fulong lost his composure like this since he became a cultivator. Just like that, Zhang Fulong stared blankly for an unknown amount of time until a strong wave emanated from Zhang Fulong's body. He broke through the 7th level of qi refining. Only then did Zhang Fulong turn his gaze back. So that's it. He finally understood the purpose of Master Lin Tian's doing this, and also knew why only the two of them could become cultivators in the past 100 years, because this world cannot be cultivated. Lin Tian was born to be born, and he had his mission, and Zhang Fulong was completely indebted to him, so that he opened a back door for Zhang Fulong. Junior Zhang Fulong, I am honored by the ancestors. Zhang Fulong knelt on both knees, kowtowed 3 times, and then stood up and left. This place is full of spiritual energy. If you practice here, your cultivation will improve by leaps and bounds. It won't take long for you to break through again, surpassing Lin Tian back then, and even go one step further to pursue a new realm. But he can't be so greedy, he has already got enough. 2 months later, Zhang Fulong finally came to Shangjing and worked hard in Kyoto, the most prosperous city in Tianyuan realm. Zhang Fulong found a restaurant and said before the waiter came up to ask, "Shopkeeper, give me half a roast duck and a pound of rice wine, thank you." Before coming to Shangjing, Zhang Fulong had heard that Shangjing's roast duck was a specialty. Today, he came here. Of course, he wanted to try it. Of course, Shangjing's delicacies are not only this, but Zhang Fulong is short of money and can't afford precious food. "Okay, sir, please sit down and wait." A waiter immediately replied, and soon after Zhang Fulong sat down, the waiter brought up what Zhang Fulong needed. "Sir, please enjoy slowly, and call me if you need it." The waiter said very politely. Zhang Fulong nodded and thanked him, and began to taste the food. Roast duck is indeed one of Shangjing's delicacies. It is crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. It tastes very smooth. With a sip of rice wine, it is quite delicious. Not long after Zhang Fulong tasted the food, a middle-aged Taoist came in and sat opposite him with a kind face. Just like Zhang Fulong came in, he said before the clerk came forward to ask, "Shopkeeper, bring a pot of bamboo leaf green." Bamboo leaf green is a famous wine in the world. In Shangjing, a pot costs dozens of taels of silver. Being able to afford this money shows that the Taoist is not ordinary. After ordering the wine, the Taoist turned around and smiled at Zhang Fulong, as if he knew him. The Taoist didn't say anything, but Zhang Fulong spoke first. "The national master is really elegant. Come here to drink such good wine." Yes, this middle-aged Taoist is the current national master. Zhang Fulong guessed his identity at once, and the Taoist was not surprised. He said, Dao Yu is really good at predicting things. You guessed my identity at once. The national master is still better. I just entered the city not long ago. I haven't even warmed my butt here yet. The national master came right after me. He has the ability to predict the future, which is several times stronger than me. Zhang Fulong flattered him, but the national master seemed a little embarrassed after hearing it. What is the ability to predict the future? Zhang Fulong was teasing him. The reason why he came so quickly was because they had spies all over Shangjing. When Zhang Fulong came, he was naturally noticed by the spies, and then someone notified him. I think Zhang Fulong knew it in his heart. Zhang Fulong was deliberately mocking him, and the national teacher smiled and didn't reply. What is the matter with the national teacher coming here in person? Seeing that the conversation was dead, Zhang Fulong took the initiative to turn the page and asked the national teacher what the purpose of coming here to see him was. It was also at this time that Xianxia was presented. The national teacher took the initiative to add wine to Zhang Fulong, and then said, Your Majesty wants to see Taoist friends. I don't know Your Majesty, why does Your Majesty want to see me? Zhang Fulong asked in confusion. The national teacher was silent again. Well, one sentence killed the conversation again. Zhang Fulong guessed that the imperial master was not in a position to answer his question, probably because he was still concerned about what happened in the past. When? Zhang Fulong asked. The emperor wanted to see him, and he also wanted to see the emperor. It depends on when you are free. The imperial master said in a humble tone. The emperor invited Zhang Fulong to dinner, and Zhang Fulong set the time, which was enough to show how important Zhang Fulong was in the emperor's heart. Then let's set it for the night after tomorrow. I want to stay in Shangjing for a while and plan to find a place to stay tomorrow. Zhang Fulong wanted to stay in Shangjing for a while. If he stayed in an inn, he would not have enough money, so it would be more cost-effective to find a cheap house. When the imperial master heard Zhang Fulong say that he wanted to find a house, he thought about it and said, I do have a few empty houses. If you don't mind, you can choose one to live in. You can live as long as you want. He didn't have any empty houses. Some of them were mansions that His Majesty had not yet granted to officials. In order to gain Zhang Fulong's favor, it was not a big deal. The imperial master could take the initiative to requisition them and give them to Zhang Fulong. If His Majesty were here, His Majesty's thoughts would be the same as his, and he was afraid that Zhang Fulong would not accept it. Zhang Fulong took the full glass of bamboo green leaf poured by the imperial master and drank it all, and then said, The imperial master has invited me to taste such a fine wine, how can I be greedy? Zhang Fulong's words were a refusal. Hearing this, the imperial master felt a little disappointed. He had guessed that Zhang Fulong would refuse, but he didn't expect Zhang Fulong to refuse so thoroughly. Greed, anger, and ignorance are the three major taboos of Taoism. Zhang Fulong brought it up, and the imperial master couldn't say anything. Chapter 12 It's not easy to live in a big city in Beijing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After the wine tour, Zhang Fulong said goodbye to the imperial master and told him to send someone to look for him the day after tomorrow. Zhang Fulong did not tell the imperial master where he lived because he was not sure, but he believed that with the other party's ability and means, he must know where he was, so there was no need to worry about it. Half a roast duck and a pound of yellow wine cost 100 coins. The prices in Shangjing were really expensive, 2 or 3 times higher than other places. Fortunately, the imperial master ordered a pot of bamboo leaf green, which cost 30 taels of silver. Seeing that the two knew each other, the store owner only charged the imperial master 30 taels and exempted Zhang Fulong from the food. In the end, Zhang Fulong took advantage of the imperial master again. Not only did he drink the imperial master's good wine, but the store owner also gave him a free meal. It was late at this time, so he could only find an inn to stay in and wait until tomorrow to find a house. It can only be said that the prices in Shangjing are extremely high. After finding several inns, it costs at least 300 coins to open a room for one night. Zhang Fulong was really short of money, and he had to find a house tomorrow, so he couldn't afford such a big expense. Finally, He found an inn in a remote street that cost 100 won a night. At this time, in the palace, Yangji Hall, the imperial master met the emperor and told him the conversation between him and Zhang Fulong word for word. He is unwilling to accept the imperial master's gift, that the emperor's face was not very good, which was a bit difficult. Zhang Fulong did not accept the imperial master's gift, which meant that Zhang Fulong had a grudge against the royal family. This was not a good thing. However, there was still room for maneuver. Zhang Fulong agreed to come to the meeting, which meant that the royal family, or the emperor, still had a certain status in the other party's heart. I will arrange the banquet, and then I will trouble the imperial master to go again, so as not to offend the guests. After thinking about it, the emperor felt that it would be better for the imperial master to go and invite the other party to come in person, because the emperor was not at ease with others doing things. The two chatted for an afternoon, and they could call each other old friends. The state teacher must have understood the other party's habits, and it would be safest for the state teacher to come forward. I obey your order. The state teacher agreed without thinking, and then thought of something, and said to the emperor, Your Majesty, I see that you like roast duck very much. The emperor was surprised, looked at the state teacher again, and then nodded, I know. I'll take my leave. The state teacher left. If Zhang Fulong heard what the state teacher said here, he would be depressed. What do you mean he likes roast duck? He has no choice. Who doesn't like delicacies from mountains and seas, dragon liver and phoenix marrow? It's just that he can't afford it. The next day, Zhang Fulong rented a small courtyard in Xixing Street, with a monthly rent of 800 won, which is quite cheap compared to other places in Shangjing. The environment is particularly bad, and the public security is the same, because the people living here are all poor families, and few government officials come here to patrol. Xixing Street can also be called a refugee slum. Zhang Fulong rented the place because he had no conditions. He had asked about other places. For example, a small courtyard like this one costs 3 taels of silver per month, and some are even more expensive. The capital is big, and it is not easy to live here. What he said is not without reason. Since he is here, he should make the best of it. Zhang Fulong began to clean up the courtyard. He could not just deal with it casually because the conditions here are poor. At the morning court today, the emperor personally ordered to invite officials above the 3rd rank to a banquet tomorrow night. Except for the imperial teacher, all the ministers present were stunned. Is tomorrow a special day? The anniversary of the death of the previous emperor? The emperor's birthday? The birthday of someone in the harem or the prince? A festival? Or a general's triumphant return? None of them. Why the emperor suddenly wants to hold a banquet is really puzzling. Fortunately, the emperor said to them later that there would be a special person tomorrow, and told the ministers not to neglect him. When the emperor said this, the ministers understood instantly that the emperor wanted to entertain others. But who was this person? And he had such a big face. Thinking of this, they suddenly remembered that the servants in the mansion had reported yesterday that the national master went to see someone in the afternoon. They didn't know who this person was. As soon as they approached, they were stopped by the national master's people. At first, they didn't care. Now thinking back, this is definitely not ordinary. They guessed that the person the national master met yesterday afternoon must be the same person as the person the emperor said he would invite to the banquet. They hoped that this person would not affect them. Zhang Fulong rented the house in the morning and started cleaning the yard in the afternoon. It was not until the evening that he finished cleaning. People in this era like to eat noodles. In the evening, Zhang Fulong made a bowl of noodles as dinner for today, and then began to meditate and practice until the next morning. After washing his face, Zhang Fulong started to go to the East Market to buy some daily necessities. It takes about an incense stick to walk from Xixing Street to the East Market, and it takes an hour to go back and forth, so it's better to go early. It was not until noon that Zhang Fulong returned home from the East Market. Because he bought a lot of things, Zhang Fulong couldn't take it all by himself, so he spent some money to hire a donkey cart to pull it back. After lunch and some simple work, it was afternoon in a blink of an eye. At this time, there was a knock on the door. Zhang Fulong opened the door and saw that it was the imperial master. There was also a carriage not far away. The carriage was decorated with extraordinary decorations, and there were 4 horses in front. Only the royal family could afford such a configuration when traveling. it was too luxurious. The carriage appeared here, which immediately attracted the attention of many civilians. They all stared at the small courtyard rented by Zhang Fulong, wondering which master was here to experience life. Seeing that the visitor was the Imperial Master, Zhang Fulong wondered, why did the Imperial Master come in person and come so early? I had a good chat with you the day before yesterday. I happen to have nothing to do today, so I came here by myself. You can take a carriage or walk. The distance from here to the Imperial City is a bit far. The time is just right, not too early. The national teacher explained to Zhang Fulong with a smile on his face. Zhang Fulong did not believe a word of the national teacher's explanation. Did we have a good chat the day before yesterday? If he remembered correctly, the chat almost killed him, and it happened to be nothing today. It was such a coincidence. After meeting Shi Heng in Donglin City and revealing his identity, he walked all the way. As long as he met someone from the court, he would do everything right. Are these all coincidences? Zhang Fulong did not point out the national teacher's words. The national teacher only said one thing that was true, that is, the distance from Xixing Street to the Imperial City is quite far. If they walk now, it will be dusk when they arrive at the Imperial City, and the banquet can just start. Zhang Fulong originally wanted to walk, but he looked at the people watching inside. Take a carriage. Not being surrounded by people, he still had to walk at this time, most of which was to show off. He will have to live here for a while in the future. The national master will really find something for him to do. The national master and Zhang Fulong got on the carriage together. The national master saw that Zhang Fulong's face was not very good, and asked, "But I have caused trouble for you." "No problem, I am thinking about something." The national master does not need to care. Zhang Fulong shook his head and told the national master that the matter had nothing to do with him, and asked the national master not to care. Today's publicity, whether it was intentional or not, after today, Zhang Fulong will not be at peace. Chapter 13 I will be the last cultivator. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The carriage was not going fast. The driver seemed to be controlling time. When they arrived at the Imperial City, the sun had just set. With the Imperial Master leading the way, no one stopped or asked who Zhang Fulong was. The journey was smooth. It was so easy to bring an outsider into the palace. I think the Imperial Master was not that capable. This person in the palace must have ordered it in advance. After entering the palace, the Imperial Master did not take Zhang Fulong to the Huangji Palace, but to the Emperor's study. Huangji Palace, the place where the Emperor would have a banquet tonight. After entering the study, Zhang Fulong saw a man in a golden dragon robe, who was the Emperor. The Emperor was already over 50 and old, but from his deep eyes, it was not difficult to see that His Majesty was a shrewd and capable person, exuding the majestic temperament that an emperor should have. Your Majesty, the immortal master of Fulong Temple has been brought here. The Imperial Master reported to the Emperor that in this occasion, the Imperial Master called Zhang Fulong the immortal master of Fulong Temple, and his status was equal to that of the immortal master Lin Tian, giving Zhang Fulong enough face. Zhang Fulong just couldn't refute it. It was impolite and rude for the minister to speak before the Emperor spoke. Zhang Fulong didn't want to be seen as such a person. It was unclear whether this was also planned in advance. The immortal master is finally here. I have been waiting for this day for a long time. The Emperor came up and was naturally familiar, just like playing at home. I have seen your Majesty. Zhang Fulong did not kneel, but just saluted the Emperor, and then said, Your Majesty, I am not worthy of the title of Immortal Master. The Emperor thought for a while and said, Then don't call me Immortal Master. How about I become a gentleman like Taizu? After that, the Emperor secretly glanced at Zhang Fulong, wanting to see how Zhang Fulong would react. Zhang Fulong's face was the same as before, and it was not fluctuating, which made the Emperor puzzled. Just follow your Majesty's words. Zhang Fulong agreed. Yes. The Emperor nodded and continued, Sir, you are the descendant of Fulong Temple, and Fulong Temple has been officially authorized by my great government. In the future, Sir, don't call yourself a commoner in front of me, just call yourself a Taoist priest. Thank you, Your Majesty, I understand. Zhang Fulong heard the Emperor's meaning. The Emperor was telling him that although Fulong Temple was gone, the court did not remove it from the list. with the official recognition of the court, Fulong Temple will come back one day and it will still be orthodox. An emperor with superb acting skills is a qualified emperor. Your Majesty called me here this time, I guess you have something to ask me. Zhang Fulong said again. I do have some questions that I would like to ask you. The emperor nodded slightly. Your Majesty, please speak. In recent decades, the population of Dogon has risen sharply, reaching 300 million. The ministers all say that this is the credit of my benevolent rule and love for the people, and that I am an eternal sage. I know that these words are just the ministers flattering me. I have investigated, not only Dogon, but also other small and barbaric countries. The population is constantly rising. The emperor stopped talking here and cast a look at Zhang Fulong. Zhang Fulong knew what the emperor wanted to ask, but he still answered in a muddle, Your Majesty is wise. Hearing Zhang Fulong say the 4 words Your Majesty is wise, the emperor smiled bitterly. Sir, do you really not understand what I mean? What does Your Majesty want to say? Zhang Fulong still pretended to be stupid. You like to say half of it, and I also like to pretend to know nothing. I want to say, if this continues, how can these people survive? This land is so big. The arable land in Dogon is now only enough to support 300 million people. If it continues like this, some people will suffer from famine. When Zhang Fulong first traveled, the emperor's question was indeed difficult to solve. Later, Zhang Fulong was relieved. The emperor's worry was unfounded, let alone the 300 million people, even if it is multiplied several times on this basis, as long as it is not a man-made disaster, it can be solved. Zhang Fulong has investigated that under the influence of spiritual energy, grain production will also increase. It's just that the spiritual energy in the world is thin now, and the increase is not much. People can't see it at all, thinking it is a bumper year. This is the normal growth of the ecosystem, don't worry. I still say the same thing, Your Majesty is wise. Zhang Fulong replied. The national teacher next to him was speechless. What kind of answer was this? What do you mean by this, sir? I want to ask Your Majesty, has there been a famine in the past few decades? That the emperor recalled and shook his head. That's not the case. So, what is Your Majesty worried about? Just wait a few years, Your Majesty will understand. Yes, there has been no famine for so many years, and there must be some changes that they don't know, so what is he worried about? Zhang Fulong's words awakened the dreamer, and the emperor seemed to have thrown away a heavy burden and felt relieved. Thank you for your explanation, sir. I understand. The emperor thanked Zhang Fulong, worthy of being a master, and he really has some skills. Your Majesty, you are welcome. Zhang Fulong returned the greeting. Let me ask you again, sir, the master left a statement that the transformation of heaven and earth would be completed within 1,000 years. Is it time now? The emperor asked again. In fact, he was asking Zhang Fulong indirectly, whether the descendants of the 356 commanders back then can practice now. This was the promise that the master Lin Tian made to them back then, and the master would not lie to them. It's not time yet. Zhang Fulong only answered with 4 short words. What about you, sir? That the emperor was surprised and disappointed. Since it is not the time yet, how can Zhang Fulong practice? If I had not traveled for more than 10 years and had not seen the Zhoutian Xingdou Great Array developed by my ancestor Lin Tian, I really could not answer Your Majesty's question. Fortunately, I am on the right path. I went to the southeast, northwest, and northeast to see the four-pole formation, and also found the traces of the Zhoutian Xingdou Great Array, and understood the reason. Zhang Fulong told the emperor what he had seen in these years. The emperor was very shocked after hearing it, and so was the national teacher. Sir, have you seen the Zhoutian Xingdou Great Array? That the emperor hurried to confirm with Zhang Fulong. From Taizu to the present, the royal family has never given up looking for the Zhoutian Xingdou Great Array. But no matter how hard they look, they can't find it. Now that they hear Zhang Fulong say that he has seen the Zhoutian Xingdou Great Array, how can the emperor not be excited? Zhang Fulong nodded. I saw it, so I dare to tell Your Majesty that the time has not come yet. The reason why I can become a Qigong practitioner is all thanks to the legacy of my ancestors. I can tell Your Majesty clearly here. At this point, Zhang Fulong looked at the emperor. "Sir, please speak." The emperor listened carefully. "Before the world changes, I will be the last cultivator." Boom! The emperor and the national teacher's faces changed drastically. Zhang Fulong was too crazy. Could it be that the heaven really only favors Fulong Temple and has no pity on all living beings? Back then, our ancestor Lin Tian did leave books, but they were not secret books for becoming immortals, but for practicing Qigong. Later, they were taken down to Fulong Temple by my great-grandfather and are now in my hands. Zhang Fulong did not intend to continue to hide the secret from the emperor and revealed this secret. Chapter 14 Necessary Conditions for Cultivation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It turns out that there really is a secret book of immortality left by the immortal master Lin Tian. Taizu was not mistaken at that time and could not find it. From this point of view, gods will play tricks on people, Zhang Fulong continued. Being a cultivator requires you to meet one condition, and it is the only condition. Without this prerequisite, even if you get the qi refining insights left by your ancestor Lin Tian, it will be in vain. What is the only condition for you to dare to ask friends? That this question was not asked by the emperor, but by the national preceptor. Of course, the emperor also wanted to know the answer. The only condition for becoming a cultivator is to have spiritual roots. Only those with spiritual roots can breathe out spiritual energy for cultivation. Zhang Fulong explained that this was the secret of heaven and earth that he understood after seeing the Zhoutian Xingdo formation. Spiritual roots. The emperor was murmuring to himself, is it really so difficult to cultivate? When the pattern of heaven and earth has not changed, no one will be born with spiritual roots, unless they are like Tiandao, who was inherited by their ancestors and received a spiritual root from heaven. Your Majesty, you don't need to think too much, everything depends on fate. The promises your ancestors made to you are naturally effective. When the world changes, the descendants of these people will give priority to the birth of spiritual roots. Zhang Fulong told the reason why he was able to practice. What I said so much was just to tell the emperor not to think about pursuing immortality anymore. God's rules are not allowed, so doing so many things is meaningless, and he has been stained with the sin of killing in vain. Fulong Temple was the best example. There are emperors who are obsessed with immortality, and there are people in Xuanhuan who value books too much, more than their own lives. Books that cannot be passed down are like useless books and have no meaning in collecting. If the emperor's methods were not so radical, Xuanhuan could spread the book to the world, and he would not have ended up like this. Also, Zhang Fulong would not tell the emperor that he could refine the longevity pill. The temptation of the longevity pill is too great and it is not good for anyone. The emperor heard the warning in Zhang Fulong's words and simply said, "Sir, I have learned a lesson." Zhang Fulong did not accept the emperor's words, but said, "Your Majesty can make a copy of the insights left by our ancestor Lin Tian." The emperor's eyes widened and he couldn't believe that these words came from Zhang Fulong's mouth. Although they cannot practice without spiritual roots, they can leave behind the foundation to prepare for the future. When the world changes and spiritual roots are born, while others are still groping, you are already on your way. If you practice one step quickly, step by step, you will definitely gain more benefits than others. What do you want me to do, sir? The emperor asked. The emperor knew that Zhang Fulong would not give it to him in vain. He must have a bargaining chip. This is a deal. Tiandao wants to rebuild Fulong Temple at its original location. Zhang Fulong stated his request. He needed the emperor's help to rebuild Fulong Temple, and he could not do it alone. When Zhang Fulong made the request, the emperor immediately said, "Even if you don't tell me, I still have this plan. I will personally arrange the reconstruction of Fulong Temple. Please rest assured, sir." That I thought Zhang Fulong would make some special request. In this case, it was just more money, and the emperor agreed without hesitation. "Thank you so much, your Majesty." As he said that, Zhang Fulong took out a book from his arms, which was the qi refining insights left by Lin Tian. There was no sloppiness in handing the book to the emperor. "Your Majesty will send someone to return it to Tiandao after he has finished copying it." The emperor took it with both hands and carefully put the book away. "Don't worry, sir. I will definitely ask someone to carefully return it to you in good condition. The banquet is about to start. Please come with me, sir. The emperor personally took Zhang Fulong to the Huangji Palace. At this time, all the ministers attending the banquet came. I have met your majesty. Seeing the emperor's arrival, the ministers stood up and saluted him. Then, there was more doubt in the eyes of the ministers. The ministers saw Zhang Fulong beside the emperor, and they were wondering who this person was and what his identity was. Could this person be a distinguished guest at the emperor's banquet? It's an ordinary banquet. My dear friends, no need to be polite. Please get up quickly. The emperor asked the ministers to stand up, and at the same time introduced Zhang Fulong to them. Let me introduce you to all the ministers. This is Zhang Fulong of Fulong Temple, Master Xianxia. Fulongguan Immortal Master. The ministers were shocked. After so many years, these strange and familiar words appeared before their eyes again. Now the ministers all understood why the emperor held this banquet. They were here to show off their feelings. It's just that this immortal master is too young. Could it be that all immortals are immortal in appearance? According to records, the immortal master Lin Tian at that time was also extremely young. Meet the immortal master. When the reactions came back, the ministers also saluted Zhang Fulong. Tiandao has met all of you. Zhang Fulong returned the gift. The two parties had a brief meeting, and the emperor continued, Sir, please take a seat. Thank you, your majesty. Zhang Fulong thanked him and started looking for a seat. The position of master must belong to the emperor, there is no doubt about this. Except for the two front and left positions, all other positions have owners. Zhang Fulong was about to walk to the right position when he saw the imperial master taking a step ahead of him and sitting on it. Zhang Fulong knew that the imperial master definitely did this on purpose. Throughout the dynasties, the left has always been respected, and the position on the left should belong to the imperial master. However, when the imperial master made such a fuss, he suddenly became the focus of the audience. Forget it, he is the protagonist of this banquet anyway, so it doesn't matter where he sits. Zhang Fulong walked to the left and sat down. After Zhang Fulong sat down, the emperor announced the start of the banquet, and the palace maids presented the fine wine and delicacies one by one, including the roast duck. After the fine wine and delicacies were presented, the emperor first celebrated with everyone, and then turned to Zhang Fulong. Sir, how about trying the roast duck made by the imperial chef? Zhang Fulong didn't quite understand what the emperor meant by this sentence. Was he just asking him to taste the roast duck? Roast duck can appear at the emperor's banquet, which is worthy of being one of the characteristics of Shangjing. When the ministers heard the emperor's words, they noticed it and couldn't help but wonder when roast duck could be served at the palace banquet. Could it be that this immortal master of Fulong Temple likes to eat roast duck? It must be true. Didn't you see the emperor personally ask Zhang Fulong to taste the roast duck in the palace? All the ministers secretly remembered a sentence, that the immortal master Zhang of Fulong Temple likes to eat roast duck. Zhang Fulong followed the emperor's instructions and took a bite of the roast duck. He was indeed a royal chef in the palace, and the taste was indeed better than outside the palace. It's delicious. Thank you for your hospitality, your majesty. Zhang Fulong gave his own evaluation. Sir, you don't have to be polite. Let's toast to you all. The emperor laughed. The imperial master was really good at judging people. The sir really liked roast duck. The ministers raised their glasses and drank again. Next came the most popular singing and dancing segment, because the royal song and dance troupe was also a master. Chapter 15, Registered Disciple. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The banquet ended at midnight, which was in the early morning. As the protagonist of this banquet, Zhang Fulong drank a lot of wine, and each minister took turns to toast him. If it were not for his cultivation, Zhang Fulong would have collapsed long ago. It's getting late. Why don't you, sir, rest in the palace for the night? After the banquet was over and dispersed, the emperor wanted Zhang Fulong to rest in the palace for a night. It was quite a long journey from the imperial city to Shihang Street. The emperor's proposal was decisively rejected by Zhang Fulong. An outsider was allowed to stay overnight in the palace, and he was also a man. It was said that he had a bad reputation. He also refused to be sent off by others. After leaving the imperial city, Zhang Fulong walked towards the westbound street and returned home in a few minutes. After tonight, anyone with dignity in Beijing will know Zhang Fulong from Fulong Temple. Simply stop hiding it and open it up directly. When the imperial guard saw this scene, they were all shocked and ran into the palace to report the situation to the emperor. When he learned that Zhang Fulong was flying back, the emperor was just surprised and told them not to make any noise. And he didn't explain anything else. After drinking a lot of wine at yesterday's banquet and coming back late, Zhang Fulong was lazy today. When he woke up, he sensed that there were many people gathered outside the courtyard door. Zhang Fulong got up and opened the courtyard door. It turned out that nearby residents gathered in front of his courtyard door to watch and chat. Seeing Zhang Fulong opening the courtyard door, these people glanced at Zhang Fulong, and then all ran away, leaving Zhang Fulong confused as to what these people were doing around here. Only a few children did not run away, maybe because they were brave or because they were curious. "Brother, are you a high official or a prince?" A little boy walked up to Zhang Fulong and asked curiously. He called Zhang Fulong his eldest brother because Zhang Fulong was young and good-looking. Little did they know that Zhang Fulong was already 30 years old, probably older than their parents. "Why do you ask that?" Zhang Fulong was also curious. How could he become a high official or a prince? Would any high official or prince live here? Come to think of it, no. My parents said that the person who can sit on the carriage like yesterday is either a high official or a prince. "Big brother, are you a high official or a prince?" That the little boy looked innocent. Only then did Zhang Fulong realize that they all regarded him as an official or a prince. No wonder they were so scared when they saw him. Just as he was about to answer the little boy's question, he saw a woman hurriedly came over, hugged the little boy and left in a hurry. Zhang Fulong shook his head helplessly. It was all the fault of the imperial master, and he insisted on taking the entire carriage. "Also, you can just forget about it. Why do you have to do it so high and mighty that it makes it impossible for him to communicate with the people around him? This takes away a lot of fun." 2 days later, the emperor had people copy it, and the imperial preceptor personally sent the book back. At the same time, the imperial preceptor told Zhang Fulong that the emperor ordered the rebuilding of Fulong Temple at the meeting yesterday. The Ministry of Industry was already making preparations and would recruit civilians to Qingzhou soon. Repair. Pingding Mountain in Qingzhou is the former site of Fulong Temple. Zhang Fulong took back the book, thanked the emperor again, and then chatted with the imperial preceptor for a few words before the imperial preceptor left. Shortly after the imperial master left, a wealthy middle-aged man led an 11 or 12-year-old boy to see Zhang Fulong. The middle-aged man is Lu Dicai, a wealthy businessman, and the boy is his son, named Lu Shua. Lu Dicai came to see Zhang Fulong because he wanted Zhang Fulong to accept Lu Shua. "Master Immortal, if you accept Quan Zi as your disciple, I am willing to donate 200,000 taels of silver." Lu Dicai begged Zhang Fulong, thinking that he knew Zhang Fulong's identity. "I didn't expect Lu Dicai to be so generous, asking for 200,000 taels of silver. This shows that Lu Dicai is not a simple person. 200,000 taels of silver is enough to rebuild Fulong Temple." Lu Dicai believes that as long as there is enough fate, nothing is impossible. Zhang Fulong did not agree immediately, but looked at the young man. The young man was dressed gorgeously, had a round face, and was elegant in manners. He only spoke little and did not look like someone who had been rejected by his parents, but there must be a reason why Lu Dicai would rather pay so much money than let the young man give it away. Zhang Fulong asked, "Can you tell me about his situation?" Lu Dicai looked troubled, but he also said, "To be honest with the immortal master, Lu Shua was born from my concubine." "Then what?" "My biological mother was originally from a brothel." Lu Dicai explained, and this was probably his unspeakable secret. Zhang Fulong lamented that rich people only spend money when they have fun. "Even so, you don't have to go to such trouble." Zhang Fulong knew that Lu Dicai still didn't tell the truth. Lu Dicai knew that he could not hide it from Zhang Fulong, so he had to tell the situation. Lu Dicai's wife cannot have children, that's one thing. Secondly, the head wife's natal family is quite powerful and has a high status in the court. Therefore, Lu Dicai was afraid of the power of his wife's natal family, and never dared to think of taking a concubine until an encounter. when Lu Shua's biological mother was pregnant, Lu Dicai dared to tell his wife about the matter. Lu Dicai's wife did not object, and Lu Shua was born smoothly. However, Lu Dicai's wife has always had an indifferent attitude towards Lu Shua. Even if he is not happy, he has not done anything unfavorable to Lu Shua on weekdays. He should still give Lu Shua the treatment that a concubine deserves, and will not deliberately deduct living expenses. Lu Dicai was very happy that his wife could do this, and he often bought her some nice things to make her happy. Until recently, his wife proposed to him to adopt a child from a collateral line. It was also from this time that Lu Dicai knew that Lu Shua was no longer suitable to stay in this home and had to send him away. During this period, Lu Dicai has been thinking about how to arrange Lu Shua. Just yesterday, Lu Dicai learned that an immortal was born in Fulong Temple, and that this immortal was on his way to Beijing at this time. If Immortal Master Fulong Guan could accept Lu Shua, it would be the best place for Lu Shua to settle down, so Lu Dicai brought Lu Shua to visit him. Lu Dicai was the second person besides the Imperial Master to come to his residence. After listening to Lu Dicai's explanation of the causes and consequences, Zhang Fulong said, Tiandao can accept him as a registered disciple. Only a registered disciple? Lu Dicai frowned slightly. It took 200,000 taels of silver to exchange for the position of a registered disciple. To be honest, it was a bit of a loss. This son has no connection with Fulong Temple. As for the reason, the secret must not be revealed. I am sorry that I cannot tell you. Tiandao accepted him as a registered disciple today just to build a good relationship. Tiandao would not accept the 200,000 taels donated by Mr. Lu. Zhang Fulong explained the reason to Lu Dicai. Zhang Fulong detected a hint of secret from Lu Shua, and it was not far before the time when heaven and earth changed. Lu Shua had his mission, and he was not committed to Fulong Temple, so Zhang Fulong accepted Lu Shua as a registered disciple. What is a registered disciple? A registered disciple means that one can leave the master at any time. So, does Lu Shua have great potential in the future? Lu Dicai felt relieved when he thought of this, and asked Zhang Fulong to accept Lu Shua as his registered disciple. Chapter 16 Leaving Beijing Early. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the Su mansion in Shangjing, the head of the family, Su Zhongji, was appointed as the minister of the Ministry of Revenue. He did a great job in daily affairs and was deeply loved by the emperor. Some people asserted that Su Zhongji should be the next minister of the Ministry of Revenue, and this minister was Lu Dicai's father-in-law. His father-in-law was so high in status. Do you think Lu Dicai dared to disobey his wife? Not long after Zhang Fulong accepted Lu Shua as a registered disciple, Su Zhongji heard the news. The immortal master of Fulong Temple actually accepted this evil son as a registered disciple. Is the news true? Su Zhongji asked, expressing his incomprehension. As in-laws, the Su family naturally knew about Lu Shua's existence, but they did not recognize Lu Shua. Father, the news is absolutely true, and many people have also known this news. It is said that Lu Dicai spent 200,000 taels of silver to exchange for it. Su Zhongji's eldest son Su Changfeng responded. Su Changfeng was also puzzled. What was so special about Lu Shua that made Zhang Fulong like him? Could it be that he accepted this bastard because of Lu Dicai's 200,000 taels of silver? If Zhang Fulong was short of money, he could tell them. Not to mention 200,000 taels of silver, his Su family could afford 500,000 taels of silver. Su Zhongji thought calmly for a moment before ordering, anyway, this bastard is now a registered disciple of the immortal master of Fulong Temple. Send someone to talk to your third sister and don't go too far. In addition, send someone to test the mouth of the immortal master of Fulong Temple. The Su family is willing to pay 1 million taels of silver to get a quota for a direct disciple. A quota for an immortal disciple is too important to his Su family. Didn't you see that at the banquet that day, His Majesty was polite to Zhang Fulong and called him Mr., and even the national master took the initiative to give up the left seat. Father, please rest assured. I understand. I will go down and do it right away. Su Changfeng knew Su Zhongji's plan. 1 million taels is not much for the Su family. If it can be exchanged for a quota, it will be a sure win for the Su family. The Su family has this plan, and other people have this idea. In Shangjing, the Su family can only be said to be average, and there are more powerful and wealthy people than the Su family. Xixing Street became lively in an instant, and many people came with generous gifts, just asking for a word of fate. The result was disappointing to these people. On the night of accepting Lu Shua, Zhang Fulong took Lu Shua and quietly left Shangjing City, as if he had expected this to happen. "Teacher, why do we have to leave Changjing?" Outside Changjing City, Lu Shua asked Zhang Fulong with a puzzled look. He has never left Shangjing since he was a child. He still feels a little reluctant to leave suddenly at this time. Zhang Fulong does not intend to teach Lu Shua Taoist skills. How to do things and know the truth is what Lu Shua should learn now. Therefore, Zhang Fulong did not let Lu Shua call him master, just call him teacher. Shangjing is not suitable for our life for the time being. Zhang Fulong told him, I had planned to live in Shangjing for a while. I had found a house and bought all the daily necessities. But I didn't expect to leave so soon. It was a pity. I spent so much money. Then teacher, where are we going now? Qingzhou, Pingdingshan. The old site of Fulong Temple, Qingzhou Pingdingshan, planned to go there after Fulong Temple was rebuilt, but now the plan has been advanced. Just the two of us? Lu Shua asked again. He didn't know where Qingzhou was, so it must be far away. Of course not. Zhang Fulong blew a whistle, and soon a horse appeared from nowhere. The horse walked to Zhang Fulong and stopped, shook its head a few times, and snorted. Zhang Fulong stroked the horse's head with his hand and chuckled, fortunately you didn't run far. When he arrived in Shangjing, Zhang Fulong didn't bring the horse into the city. First, it was inconvenient, and second, he didn't have money to buy fodder for the horse. He let the horse fend for itself outside Changjing and look for it after he left. Fortunately, the horse didn't run far away, and came as soon as it was called, so there was no need to spend time looking for it. Then Zhang Fulong introduced Lu Shua to the horse. Let me introduce you, this is my new disciple, named Lu Shua. You may have to work hard on the road. It was 3,000 miles from Changjing to Qingzhou, which was a huge challenge for the 12-year-old Lu Shua, and he needed the help of the horse on the road. Zhang Fulong told the horse that Lu Shua was his disciple, and he thought the horse would help. The horse should have understood, and when Zhang Fulong finished speaking, the look in the horse's eyes seemed to be looking at Lu Shua. Hiss, the horse hummed, indicating that it agreed. Teacher, the horse seems to understand what you say. Lu Shua saw an animal like this for the first time, and he was curious and a little excited. After all, he was still a child. Hiss, the horse understood what Lu Shua meant, and turned its head back to express disdain. It was intelligent, and it was not easy to understand human words. Zhang Fulong smiled and said, of course, the horse has been with me for 10 years and can understand human language. You should be nicer to the horse in the future, understand? Lu Shua nodded heavily. I remember it, I will definitely be nice to the horse in the future. Well, it's good to remember it, let's get on the road. The two of them set off on the journey to Qingzhou. With Lu Shua, the journey was slowed down a lot. After walking only 20 miles on the first day, Lu Shua had signs of blisters on his feet. When he woke up the next day, his feet were sore and there was a blister on his ankle. Fortunately, Zhang Fulong was not in a hurry. He personally put Lu Shua's blisters on him, picked some herbs to apply to him, and then asked Lu Shua if he wanted to ride a horse. Lu Shua wanted to ride a horse, but he thought that his teacher had also come this way and would take care of him on the way, so he refused to ride a horse and wanted to walk on his own. Zhang Fulong nodded and said no more, and was not in a hurry to go on. He rested for a day and waited for Lu Shua to recover before continuing his journey. As time went by, Lu Shua slowly adapted. After a month, they could walk 30 miles a day, which was a great improvement. The bad news was that Lu Shua had worn out 2 pairs of shoes, and the pair on his feet was also getting worse. 4 months later, the two of them and the horse traveled 3,000 miles and finally walked from Shangjing to Qingzhou. After 5 months of eating and sleeping in the open, Lu Shua's original tender face faded a lot, and he looked a little mature. After entering Qingzhou city, Zhang Fulong took Lu Shua to a noodle stall and ordered 2 bowls of noodles. While eating noodles, Zhang Fulong heard guests at other tables talking about Fulong Temple. Have you heard that the Fulong Temple is about to be completed? Of course, everyone knows that there was an immortal in Fulong Temple before, but the immortal disappeared later, otherwise Fulong Temple would not have been destroyed. You didn't see that the scale of this reconstruction is very large, almost catching up with the Imperial Palace. Thousands of people are working at the same time. Tut tut, this scene is probably not seen by many people. Hearing this, Zhang Fulong smiled. They had never seen the Imperial Palace, so how could they know how big it was? I heard them discussing again. When Fulong Temple is completed, I don't know if there will be immortals. If there are immortals in the world, I will definitely send my child to Fulong Temple to practice with the immortals. TSK, you are not even worthy of carrying shoes for others. Will the immortals look down on your child? You can't say that. The world is still uncertain. Who knows if my son is a cow or a horse? Chapter 17 White Lies. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hee hee. Zhang Fulong smiled to himself. It was really interesting to listen to these people chatting. Lu Shua naturally heard their conversation, and saw his teacher smiling, so he couldn't help but ask, "Teacher, are there really immortals in Fulong Temple?" Zhang Fulong never told him about Fulong Temple, but along the way, he heard many people talking about Fulong Temple, which must be very powerful. The teacher is great. There is no such thing as an immortal, it's just a false name given by people. Zhang Fulong explained to Lu Shua that there are no real immortals in the world, they just look like immortals on the surface. After finishing the noodles, Zhang Fulong went to pay and asked the store owner about the location of Pingdingshan. As a native of Qingzhou, there has been a lot of commotion at Fulong Temple recently. The store owner naturally knew where Pingding Mountain was, so he told Zhang Fulong how to get to Pingding Mountain. Following the route given by the store, Zhang Fulong and others arrived at the foot of Pingding Mountain 2 days later. Just like what I heard on the road, there were many civilians gathered up and down Pingdingshan. There must have been thousands of people, not to mention tens of thousands. With so many people building Fulong Temple at the same time, it's no wonder that people say that Fulong Temple is not much worse than the Imperial Palace, and is even more impressive. This is not unreasonable, and all the deeds can be found, viewed from the foot of the mountain. The buildings on the mountain are basically in the process of being completed. It will not be long before they are all completed, and the work will be handed over by the end of this year at the latest. At the same time, the middle-aged official who was supervising the work saw an outsider coming here. At first, the middle-aged officials didn't care, because everyone knew that the imperial court was rebuilding Fulong Temple, and many people came to watch it every day. As the time went by, they stopped paying attention, as long as these people did not interfere with the project. Progress is enough. However, when the middle-aged official saw clearly the appearance of the visitor, he was shocked, quickly dropped what he was doing, and ran straight to Zhang Fulong. Bao Heng, the minister of the Ministry of Industry, has met the immortal master. The middle-aged official came to Zhang Fulong to salute and identify himself to Zhang Fulong. Zhang Fulong helped the middle-aged official up and said, "Master Bao doesn't need to be polite. It's a poor Taoist who came to disturb me. Please don't blame me, Master Bao." The emperor was so willing that he personally sent a minister from the Ministry of Industry to the front line. For the position of minister, there is a high chance that he will be able to sit in the position of minister in the future. The immortal master's words are serious. Fulong Temple is the immortal master's dojo. It's just that Fulong Temple has not been built yet. Why did the immortal master come so early? Bao Heng asked confused, saying that Zhang Fulong came to supervise the work to see if they would cut corners. This conjecture is not true. After all, he is an immortal master and would not act like this these days. He also heard some rumors in Kyoto, saying that Zhang Fulong accepted a disciple and then disappeared. No one knew where they went. Bao Heng glanced at the young man next to Zhang Fulong and knew that the rumor was true. It turned out that the immortal master left Kyoto and came here. No wonder no one could find him. Not long after Zhang Fulong disappeared, the former Minister of Household Affairs wrote a letter requesting to resign and return to his hometown to retire because he was too old to handle the affairs of the DPRK. The emperor agreed to his request, and then asked the ministers to recommend who should be the new Minister of Household Affairs. In the end, the new position of Minister of Household Affairs fell to Su Zhongji, which is very intriguing. The former Minister of Household Affairs was less than 60 years old, so it makes sense that he was older, but it is a bit suspicious to say that he was unable to hold this position because of his inability to do so. Moreover, it happened to be that Zhang Fulong had just accepted a disciple at this time, and the person he accepted as a disciple was directly related to Su Zhong. The courtiers all knew that it was Su Zhongji who was promoted by the emperor because he wanted to gain the support of immortal master Fulongguan. If you want to promote Su Zhongji, someone will naturally give way. Everyone knew it, but no one pointed it out. It would not be good for anyone, and it would make the emperor unhappy. It also emphasized that Fulongguan immortal master was so extraordinary that even the emperor wanted to fawn over him. I had nothing to do and walked around to gain more insights to facilitate my future practice. I happened to come to Qingzhou and heard that the imperial court was rebuilding Fulong Temple, so I wanted to come and have a look. Zhang Fulong explained the reason, but Lu Shua beside him was confused. Didn't they come to Qingzhou specifically? Why did the teacher say that they came here by chance? Could it be that he had misunderstood? Before Lu Shua could figure it out, Zhang Fulong said again, I'm just taking a look. Mr. Bao is busy with official duties, so I won't disturb him. Excuse me, Immortal Master. If you have any questions, Immortal Master, you can come to me at any time. Zhang Fulong and Bao Hun parted ways. Teacher, didn't we come to Qingzhou specifically? On the way, Lu Shua, who couldn't figure it out, asked Zhang Fulong a question. Yes. Zhang Fulong clearly told Lu Shua the answer. Why did the teacher lie just now? Lu Shua asked again. Zhang Fulong replied, this is a white lie. A white lie. Lu Shua didn't quite understand Zhang Fulong's words. Is there any good intention in lies? Of course. For example, just like your father. Your father gave you to me not because he doesn't love you. On the contrary, your father likes you very much, but he has to do this. This is his. The love I have for you is hidden, but I don't express it clearly, do you understand? After listening to Zhang Fulong's words, Lu Shua was silent for a long time. So the teacher is also doing it for the good of this adult just now. Master Bao understood in his heart, so he didn't ask further questions. Zhang Fulong said, anyone who can sit in the position of Minister of the Ministry of Industry is not a fool. Bao Heng didn't think so. He knew that what Zhang Fulong told was a lie, but he chose to believe it and didn't ask further questions. He was a smart man. The former Minister of Revenue who retired and returned to his hometown is also a smart man. He knows how to advance and retreat. If he does not take the initiative to be decent, someone will help him to be decent. Why don't you understand it in your heart? Lu Shua asked again. Of course, he knew that his father loved him, but he never thought about it in this way. Zhang Fulong explained, you are still young, you have not read much, and you have not seen much, so you don't understand. You will understand when you grow up. I understand. I will definitely read more and listen to the teacher's teachings in the future. Zhang Fulong nodded slightly and took Lu Shua to a nearby village to find a place to live. He planned to wait here until the Fulong Temple was built. Zhang Fulong did not want to trouble Bao Heng, so he found an abandoned temple in a nearby village. Zhang Fulong asked the village headman whether the master and apprentice could live in the temple for a while. After all, it was someone else's territory, and he should inform them. The village head looked at the master and his apprentice and thought they looked like Taoist priests because they were very young. The elder looked no more than 20 years old, and the younger was only about 10 years old. They must have fallen into trouble for some reason. In fact, the village head guessed wrong. Zhang Fulong was over 30 years old. The village head was kind-hearted and told Zhang Fulong the origin of the dilapidated temple. Their village was called Xianxia village. In the past, Xianxia village was also well known in Qingzhou. The reason was that Xianxia village was next to Fulong Temple. Chapter 18 Peak of Qi Refining. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Fulong Temple was at its peak, the villagers of Xianxia village took advantage of its geographical location to develop some businesses and provided convenience for people who came to worship. The dilapidated temple that Zhang Fulong saw was built at that time. It enshrined the statue of Lin Tian, the immortal master of Fulong Temple, and many guests came to burn incense every day. Unfortunately, the good times did not last long. Fulong Temple was destroyed overnight, and Xianxia village also lost its commercial value. Slowly, the temple gradually became deserted. Later, no one took care of it. Now, the outside of the temple is full of weeds, which are much taller than people. The walls are full of moss, and the tiles on the roof are basically broken. It is not suitable for living at all. After the village head finished talking to Zhang Fulong, he told Zhang Fulong that there are still some old houses in Xianxia village that are not occupied. The conditions are not very good, but at least people can live in them. If he has nowhere to go, he can choose one to live in. From this, it can be seen that the village head is kind-hearted. Zhang Fulong refused the village head's good intentions. It would have been fine if the village head hadn't told him. Since he had told him, knowing that this temple used to enshrine the statue of Lin Tian, the immortal master of Fulong Temple, Zhang Fulong would never back down. Zhang Fulong planned to borrow some tools from the village head. It was impossible to renovate this temple, but it could still be inhabited after removing the weeds and simply repairing it. The village head saw that Zhang Fulong insisted on living in the temple, and he had no better idea in mind, so he agreed to Zhang Fulong's request. The master and apprentice cleaned up for half a day and finally sorted out a place to live. "Teacher, why do we have to live here?" Lu Shua couldn't understand. There were obviously better places to live, so why did he have to toss like this? "No reason, teacher just wants to live here." If you have to give a reason, teacher is a nostalgic person. Xiao Shua, remember, do things that you can do with your own hands by yourself. Favors are still owed less, and they must be repaid in the end. Zhang Fulong followed Lu Shua and said. Lu Shua nodded vaguely, as if he understood, but also seemed difficult to understand. Fortunately, there is finally a place to live, even though it is very dilapidated. It was the end of the year again, and Xuanhuan brought news to Zhang Fulong that Fulong Temple had been rebuilt, and asked Zhang Fulong to inspect it. Zhang Fulong went to inspect it, and all the buildings were completed, and the scale was more than 3 times larger than the original Fulong Temple. It can be seen that the court was very concerned about the reconstruction of Fulong Temple. Master Shi is very attentive. Zhang Fulong bowed to Xuanhuan to express his gratitude. Xuanhuan hurriedly returned the greeting and said, "Master, you are too polite. This is my duty. I have to trouble Master Shi for one more thing." "Master, please speak. Please call all the civilians and servants together." "Call all the civilians and servants together." Xuanhuan didn't know what Zhang Fulong wanted to do. However, since Zhang Fulong ordered him to do so, Xuanhuan had to go down and do it. About an incense stick of time, all the people gathered. Thousands of people stayed together, looking like a sea of people. But these people didn't know why they were called here. Wasn't Fulong Temple already completed? They were just packing up to go home. When everyone was confused, they heard Zhang Fulong say, "I am Zhang Fulong, the descendant of Fulong Temple. Today, Fulong Temple has been restored to the light of day thanks to you. To express my gratitude, please share the rain with me." "Rain is coming." Zhang Fulong pointed his finger, and dark clouds suddenly appeared in the white sky. After a while, a drizzle fell, splashing on everyone. The rain fell on my body, and in an instant, I felt so comfortable, and all the fatigue from working disappeared. "Thank you, Master." "Thank you, Master." Everyone knelt down and kowtowed. Only immortals have such means. Xuanhuan was also greatly shocked. There really was an immortal in Fulong Temple. Before, he was called Master because of Zhang Fulong's identity. Now it seems that this Master is worthy of the name. No need to do that. This is a little gift from me. Please stand up. Zhang Fulong called everyone to stand up. There was nothing special about this method. It was just that the rain was wrapped in spiritual energy. When it touched the body, the spiritual energy would automatically start to help wash the body. It has the effect of removing fatigue and treating some minor diseases. Apart from that, it has no usability. what Zhang Fulong didn't know was that it was precisely this action of his that thousands of civilians went back to their hometowns to publicize his miracles. For a time, Fulong Temple became famous again. The emperor knew it at the first time and hurriedly called Shiheng to confirm. I heard that the gentleman waved his hand and the sky rained down, curing everyone's diseases, that if it is said that Zhang Fulong's flying sword to cut off the branches that day was beyond the scope of ordinary people, this time the rain from the sky was beyond people's expectations. The immortal master is worthy of being an immortal master. He really has a good method. It's a pity that the emperor did not come to the scene in person, and when Xianxia village learned that the immortal master had come to Fulong Temple again, they were extremely shocked. However, at the same time of shock, they were also extremely happy. Xianxia village was taking several middle-aged people from the village to Fulong Temple to verify. When they saw that the immortal master was Zhang Fulong who had asked him to find a place to live half a year ago, Xianxia village was so shocked that his jaw almost dropped. It would be fine if the young man did not have martial ethics, but the immortal master did not have martial ethics either, and kept it a secret from an old man like him for so long. If he had not seen it today, he would probably never know it in his life. Fortunately, they got a message from Zhang Fulong that Fulong Temple would reopen soon and recruit people with predestined relationships from all over the world. As soon as this news came out, the whole world was in an uproar, and everyone went to Fulong Temple one after another, hoping that they were the destined person. Fulong Temple was reopened to the world. Before that, Zhang Fulong needed to do one thing. In addition to bringing his parents to live with him in Fulongwan, he also moved his great-grandfather's grave to Fulongwan for reburial. In this way, for my great-grandfather, it was time for him to return to his roots. There are many destined people in the world, but Zhang Fulong only selected 300 people. It is worth mentioning that Lu Shua's father Lu Dicai also came and brought 200,000 taels of silver to fulfill his promise. Zhang Fulong said he didn't want it, but Lu Dicai had to give it. Furthermore, some powerful and wealthy businessmen knew that his son was a disciple of immortal master Fulong Guan, and they took the initiative to come to him for cooperation, almost putting food in their mouths. This year, Lu Dicai earned more than 200,000 taels. Originally, Lu Dicai wanted to give more, but considering the reputation of Fulong Temple, any more would not be good, so he fulfilled the original agreement. People were bringing money to their door. Zhang Fulong did not refuse this time and accepted it. However, Zhang Fulong once again explained to Lu Dicai that Lu Shua had no chance with Fulong Temple and would still have to go down the mountain in the future. This time Lu Dicai didn't say anything more and obeyed Zhang Fulong's instructions in everything. Time flies. 15 years have passed. Zhang Fulong broke through to the peak of the 9th level of qi refining, which is also the highest level of the first level of qi refining. Chapter 19, Overcoming the Tribulation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A lot of things happened in 15 years. The last emperor of Dogon died 3 years ago, and the new emperor succeeded to the throne 3 years ago. The reign was called Guanghe. At this time, it was the 2nd year of Guanghe. Perhaps it was because there were too many wise rulers before Dogon, and when it came to this Emperor Guanghe, there were signs of defeat. It was very simple. Emperor Guanghe did not know the art of weighing like his father. An emperor who does not know the art of weighing is destined not to be a qualified emperor. It was also at the end of the 2nd year of Guanghe that a shocking news came from Fulong Temple. Zhang Fulong announced that Fulong Temple would start to close the mountain from now on, and would reopen the mountain gate after 100 years. Everyone was stunned by Zhang Fulong's decision and did not understand why he did this. Disciple, our relationship as master and disciple ends here. Go down the mountain. Zhang Fulong found Lu Shua and asked him to leave Fulong Temple from today. Lu Shua started to follow Zhang Fulong at the age of 12, and it has been 16 years so far. Lu Shua is now 28 years old and has become a big man, perhaps because he often followed Zhang Fulong. His temperament was elegant and easygoing, showing his extraordinary temperament. Lu Shua had known that this day would come, and he kowtowed to Zhang Fulong 3 times, and then went down the mountain. After Lu Shua went down the mountain, Zhang Fulong cast a spell to hide Fulong Temple from the world, and the world could no longer find him. As time went by, over time, the name of Fulong Temple faded from the mouths of the people. 100 years later, the Dogon dynasty was still there, but it was already in turmoil. Due to the sharp increase in population and serious land annexation, famine broke out all over the country. Last year alone, there were no less than 100 large and small uprisings. The court had no money and food for disaster relief. Even if there was money and food, it could not reach the hands of the people. It was divided layer by layer from top to bottom. The only means for the emperor was to send troops to suppress it. However, suppression also has its exhaustion. There were 2 big warlords in the north and 1 in the south. The 3 major warlords occupied a total of 12 states in Dogon, and only 6 states were nominally still under the control of Dogon. If this trend continues, Dogon will inevitably perish within 3 years. Only 1 year has passed. Under the Pingding Mountain in Qingzhou, a carriage was escorted by a team of cavalry. The cavalry had a lot of blood on their armor and their faces were exhausted. I think they had experienced a fierce battle. When they arrived at the foot of Pingding Mountain, a middle-aged man in a dragon robe jumped out of the carriage. At this time, the middle-aged man looked up to the sky and cried, "Master, where are you? Save me, save Dogon." Yes, he is the current emperor of Dogon. In just 1 year, all 18 states in the world were out of Dogon's control, and Shangjing also fell into the hands of the thieves. The 3 major warlords seem to have reached a consensus, not to conflict, not to initiate civil war, and only one goal, Shangjing. This led to the destruction of Dogon in just 1 year, under the protection of 3,000 guards. The emperor fled all the way from Shangjing. When he arrived here, there were only a few dozen people left. The reason why he came here was because of the last thought: if he could find the immortal master, Dogon could still be saved. Unfortunately, the emperor shouted for a long time and knelt for a long time, but Pingdingshan was still as quiet as ever, and no one responded to him. Finally, he left Pingdingshan and continued to flee under the drag of the guards. After the emperor left, a figure appeared in the original place. It was Zhang Fulong, who had disappeared for 100 years. Man-made disaster. Looking at the back of the emperor leaving, Zhang Fulong shook his head and sighed. 100 years ago in the Shangjing Palace, when Emperor Gan asked him about the people's livelihood, he had already explained it to Emperor Gan. Later, they also got confirmation that grain production was increasing year by year, and there would be no burden due to population growth. Emperor Gan was a wise ruler. And Dogon had been founded for more than 100 years, so land annexation was not serious, and the people had some way to survive. Unlike now, the emperor is fooled by the court officials, and the noble families are desperately annexing land and not treating the people as human beings. It would be strange if the world is not in chaos and the country is not destroyed. Zhang Fulong does have the ability to save Dogon, but what's the use of it? He can't save the people of the world. It's time to reshuffle the world. The reason why Zhang Fulong sighed was not that Dogon would perish, but that the world was about to change, but it still couldn't change the law of the dynasty for 300 years. At the beginning, he accepted Lu Shua as a registered disciple because Lu Shua had the potential of a hidden dragon. In other words, someone in the Lu family must become a dragon within 5 generations. If the Emperor of Gan had a national policy to prevent land annexation at that time, and the next emperor did not go downhill, Zhang Fulong could help Dogon continue the country. Unfortunately, none of them were as Zhang Fulong wished, which made Zhang Fulong understand a truth that the trend of heaven and earth cannot be changed. So, when Lu Shua was 28 years old, he was allowed to go down the mountain, and Fulong Temple began to close the mountain. The Gan is dead, and the next dynasty founder must be the descendants of Lu Shua, and other warlords are the pioneers of the king. The facts are the same as Zhang Fulong expected. 8 years later, Lu Xiu ascended the throne in Shangjing and named the country Dali. Lu Xiu is the great-grandson of Lu Shua. 1 month after Dali was established, on this day, Fulong Temple reappeared in the world. I am Zhang Fulong of Fulong Temple. After 100 years of seclusion, I have realized the higher realm of qi refining. In 3 months, I will pass the tribulation on Pingding Mountain. Everyone in the world can come to watch. Zhang Fulong's voice spread over 100 miles, and everyone who heard it was shocked. The Fulong Temple, which disappeared for 100 years, reappeared in the world, and there was also a tribulation. These are super explosive news. The news quickly spread from Qingzhou to the world, and many people came to see what the so-called tribulation was. Emperor Lu Xiu of Dali also learned the news and hurried to Pingding Mountain in Qingzhou. In addition to meeting the legendary immortal master, he went to Pingding Mountain to fulfill his grandfather's last wish. Lu Shua's last wish was that he wanted the descendants of the Lu family to take a look at Fulong Temple for him, for so many years. The Lu family has also been exploring Fulong Temple, but has never been able to do so. Now that Fulong Temple has reappeared in the world, he, a descendant of the Lu family, naturally has to go there for his grandfather. At the same time, he also wants to see what realm is above refining qi, since Emperor Qian copied the immortal master Lin Tian's refining qi perception 100 years ago, and Zhang Fulong did not deliberately conceal it. Today, the world has also had some understanding of cultivation. Only with spiritual roots can one practice. The first realm of cultivation is called refining qi, and refining qi is divided into 9 levels. The original immortal master Lin Tian, or the current Zhang Fulong, are both at the level of refining qi. As for what realm is above refining qi, no one has given an answer yet. In 3 months, countless people gathered at the foot of Pingding Mountain, and Xianxia village returned to its former prosperity. As soon as the 3-month period arrived, it was close to noon, a figure appeared in the sky above Pingding Mountain. In the blink of an eye, it was Zhang Fulong, the abbot of Fulong Temple. Thank you all for coming to watch me transcend the tribulation. I, Zhang Fulong, the abbot of Fulong Temple, am here to greet you. Zhang Fulong bowed to everyone in the air, and his voice was clearly audible. Everyone returned the greeting. We have met the immortal master, and wish you success in transcending the tribulation. Chapter 20, Building the Foundation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zhang Fulong released all his aura, and displayed his cultivation of the peak of the 9th level of qi refining without reservation. In an instant, a black cloud appeared above Zhang Fulong's head. Not long after, this black cloud dropped a thunder tribulation on Zhang Fulong, which was terrifying. Is this the tribulation? The onlookers were trembling. It turned out that the tribulation was to be struck by lightning. After 9 thunder tribulations fell, Zhang Fulong was already dying, and his body was full of wounds. If there was another thunder tribulation, he might not be able to bear it. Fortunately, after the 9 thunder tribulations, the black cloud dispersed, and a rosy glow shone on Zhang Fulong, and the injuries on his body were visibly recovering. Not long after, Zhang Fulong recovered as before, and burst out with a stronger aura than before. I successfully broke through the foundation today. Fulong Temple will absorb disciples in half a year. Anyone who is predestined can come. Now the world knows that the foundation is built above qi refining. However, what does this have to do with them? They just came here to see the demeanor of the immortal. Then again, this trip is worthwhile, because Fulong Temple will accept disciples again. This is a great joyous event. It was 100 years ago since Fulong Temple last accepted disciples, in Fulong Temple. I wonder if your majesty has any important business in Fulong Temple. After the tribulation, Zhang Fulong saw Lu Xiu in the crowd at a glance, and knew that he was the descendant of Lu Shua and the current emperor of Dali. Seeing Zhang Fulong asking, Lu Xiu knelt on his knees and bowed. Lu Xiu, the great-grandson of Lu Shua, greets the master. Lu Xiu greeted as the descendant of Lu Shua, not the emperor of Dali. Zhang Fulong accepted this bow. Although Lu Shua was only a nominal disciple of Zhang Fulong, he was also Zhang Fulong's only disciple. No matter what, this thought was still there. Zhang Fulong pulled Lu Xiu up and asked, when did your grandfather die? To answer master, my grandfather died 30 years ago at the age of 99. He died peacefully, and the only regret was that I couldn't go back to Fulong to see him for the last time. Lu Xiu replied that he was only 8 years old 30 years ago and was also an ignorant child. 99 years old is already a very old age among humans, but compared to Zhang Fulong, this old age is not worth mentioning, so Lu Xiu didn't say it. 30 years ago, Zhang Fulong thought about it. At that time, there was no major turmoil in Dagon, and Lu Xiu was enjoying his old age. I already know it. If your majesty has nothing else to do, please go down the mountain. Zhang Fulong issued an order to expel him. I do have some things to ask master. Lu Xiu said, and this time he asked as the emperor. Your majesty, please speak. May I ask master, how long will it take for the world to change? As an emperor and a descendant of Lu Xiu naturally knew about the good fortune of that year. He had a hunch that the world was about to change. Not far away, just in the next few years. Zhang Fulong said truthfully, he was able to break through to the foundation building stage. which meant that the spiritual energy in the Tianyuan realm was enough for a small number of people to practice, and this small group of people included the descendants of the original 365 generals. Hearing Zhang Fulong's words, Lu Xiu frowned. He guessed that the world was about to change, but he didn't expect it to come so soon. What would happen to the new Dali dynasty? Please ask the master, what should my Dali dynasty do? Lu Xiu asked. The Dali dynasty had just been established, and there were many remnants of the previous dynasty, and the number of places occupied by the Dogon royal family was quite large. Once the world changed, many cultivators appeared among the remnants of the previous dynasty, and the world that had just settled down would inevitably be in chaos again. Your Majesty, do you know what kind of people can have spiritual roots? Those who can have spiritual roots for cultivation are 1 in 10,000, and they must be lucky. Lu Xiu answered without thinking. Zhang Fulong glanced at Lu Xiu again and said, "Isn't your Majesty a lucky person?" This. After being enlightened by Zhang Fulong, Lu Xiu immediately understood, aren't lucky people people with great luck? He himself is a person with great luck, otherwise how could he sit in this position? Master, please explain. Lu Xiu asked again. He understood it, but he didn't understand the deep meaning and how to do it. Back then, Immortal Master Lin Tian said that the first batch of practitioners must have 365 descendants. Immortal Master Lin Tian dared to make such a guarantee, which must have been recognized by the Heavenly Dao. The first batch of people with spiritual roots must have descendants of these people. I have spied on the secrets of heaven. The number of people with spiritual roots in the first batch is the number of Joji. I don't know the exact number. I don't know whether it is 810 or 999, except 365, Your Majesty still has a lot of room for operation for the remaining number. As long as the Dali royal family gathers a lot of luck, the probability of spiritual roots will be higher. As for how to gather luck, I don't need to explain this. Your Majesty knows how to do it. For Lu Xiu's sake, Zhang Fulong and Lu Xiu made it clear. Thank you for telling me, Master. Lu Xiu bowed. Zhang Fulong's words helped him a lot. There is another thing for Your Majesty to understand. People with spiritual roots are not necessarily human. Zhang Fulong reminded Lu Xiu again. Lu Xiu was stunned. Master, do you mean that some animals can become spirits, that this is not a good thing? Once an animal becomes a spirit, it will definitely cause a huge impact on humans. Your Majesty, please go down the mountain. Zhang Fulong has said enough today. The future of the Dali dynasty depends entirely on fate. After Lu Xiu left Fulongwen and returned to the imperial capital, without informing anyone, Lu Xiu announced the establishment of a department and a guard. One is the monitoring department, and the other is the demon eliminating guard. The former is to inquire about intelligence, and the latter is to exorcise demons. The two complement each other. This made everyone confused. They didn't understand why the emperor set up these two departments, and where the demons and monsters came from in this world, but soon the court officials reacted. The emperor went to Fulongwen and came back. Could it be that the emperor got some news in advance? If this is true, the world will inevitably be turbulent again. After that, Lu Xiu issued many decrees, all of which are about people's livelihood issues, and they must be implemented in every village. Those who dare to neglect them will be severely punished. The mobilization strength of Dali this time is unprecedented, breaking the criticism that the imperial power does not go to the countryside. This is good for the people, but it is unbearable for officials. I usually slack off for 8 hours, and I have paid holidays on holidays. I listen to music when I have nothing to do. It's so comfortable. Now, as long as they are alive, they will work hard to death, without any rest time. It is really difficult to be an official in Dali. This is what all the ministers think in their hearts. It is not clear what the emperor wants to do and why he is so impatient. Once these policies are implemented normally, the subsequent monarch can keep the family business even if he is an idiot. The emperor is completing the affairs of several generations at the moment. The emperor is a bit harsh, but the public response is good, and the people are all grateful to this new dynasty.